Hey guys, I'm just finishing up editing a video that I did with Chad Foster. We talk about many things. He's in Canada, he's headed back, we're talking about his future plans. What's it like being back in his home country after spending so much time in the Philippines? And we're going to check to see what his mission and plans are on his return back to the Philippines for the third time. Enjoy the video. Hey everybody, look who I found online. Mr. Chad Foster. Hey, Chad, how you doing?
What's up, man? Good evening to you. Good morning to me. Cheers.
Where are you, man? Where in the world is Chad Foster?
I'm in Southern Ontario, Canada, staying at my bros.
Third time's a charm, coming back to the Philippines?
Yeah, that's what they say. Good things happen in threes, although it's all been good. So the third time, I don't know. Like, I think each trip has been a success for its own reason, you know? It's been a journey, exploring, figuring it out, you know? I think I probably have a better understanding of what I'm looking for now.
Let's first talk about the culture shock going back to your home country. Do you miss the Philippines or are you glad you're home?
I'm happy to be home. Like, it's great. And I come in the summer, right? So it's like a great time to be here. I see my family. We have a bunch of stuff planned. We go camping, hiking. You know, we're enjoying all the great stuff that Canada has to offer. And the weather's great. And so we've actually had a bit of a cold spell in the middle of August, which is weird. So it's reminded me one of the huge drawbacks to Canada, right? Like, I hate cold weather. That's why I've actually been living in Florida. But so that's something that always pops up. I stay in a bubble when I'm here. Like, I'm just family, nature. So I don't get too caught up in some of the things that a lot of people complain about with Canada, whether it be or US, like political stuff, or well, the cost of living. That would be another thing. I noticed that right away, whether it be like chatting with my brother about his expenses and how hard it is to like get ahead. You know, he does very well. You know, his wife's a teacher and all that, and they do okay. But yeah, man, like, whether you're renting or you're owning, you're wanting to buy a place. There's a house across the street from my brother for sale right now that's like $1 million. And went inside, it's like you got to gut the whole thing. I mean, it needs so much work. And you're starting at $1 million, you know, it's a nice neighborhood and everything, but I'm like, it's just not feasible. And it doesn't make sense for the lifestyle I want to live. It doesn't make sense for the life balance I want to have. So when I start to see those things again, the time that I get excited to go back overseas is when I get closer to my trip towards the end. Once the dust settles, I'm like, all right, family time, you know, tick the box on the missing the family and all that. Not that I'm not going to miss them. I start thinking about why I went there in the first place. You know, what excites me about the Philippines, the setup that I can have there, what I've started and I want to continue with, you know, continue back on that journey. So yeah, I'm feeling it now, man. I'm a week out and I'm psyched. I'm already thinking about the plan, and I have more of a strategy this time than I did last time.
You journeyed through the Philippines. You were checking out different towns and cities, and you know, being a single guy bouncing around. You're in Canada. How's the dating life there, or is that non-existent for a young man like you in Canada?
I don't even have any desire to date here. I talk to a lot of guys that do, just through my channel or people that are coming over to the Philippines, and it's all the same, you know, like, they're tired of it, they feel hopeless with it.
Now that you've been in the Philippines, you know, a couple times, and you've tasted the dating life, the cultural difference of the women here and the women in the West, uh, are you drawn more to the Filipino woman than you are the Western woman?
Philippines, it's hard to just define what a Filipina is, you know, like, it's on a spectrum. There's like the far end, province, traditional, not exposed to much. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, maybe living in Manila and career and maybe more Western and everything in between, right? Maybe some grew up in the province and then end up in the city and they kind of have a little bit of a blend. Like a buddy of mine, Nick, who I've talked about on my channel, 'cause I just hung out with him. He came out to meet with the Filipina that he had been chatting with for a while in Manila, from the province in Manila, like pretty high up in a career, makes great money. Her family has money, pretty high level educated, aware of things happening around the world. He wanted that. Like that was a mandatory thing for him. He wanted to have the banter and the relatability. He didn't want someone that he had to even think about, that she's looking for finances whatsoever. And he made some really good points when I was chatting with him about what he's looking for. He's in his 40s, and it's hard to find. He still wants to have kids, and it's hard to find someone 30 years old that's single and not crazy and willing to date someone in his 40s. And so he didn't want to go too far off culturally. And so I definitely recognize how much I do like, connecting with someone deeper and through conversation and banter and all that. But it doesn't have to be all the way to like a Western style girl. I like something in between.
Take where you just talked about your brother and the house across the street, $1 million for a house you have to rebuild. A couple in the West, they both have to be working. To have that, house with a white picket fence and 3 kids and 2 cars. They both have to be working, both have to be career oriented or some sort of good job to have that kind of life together. Where here in the Philippines, it's a little bit more simple because the cost of things aren't that high. It's not cheap anymore, but the cost is much cheaper than back home.
Yeah.
So the woman that a lot of guys come here looking for, I think is in that mix now. I notice men are looking more and more at women in their 30s and their 40s. I think most men come over there and they sow their wild oats. They date that 20-year-old, that 21-year-old young thing that, will, when she's done with him, she's going to go somewhere else. But he's going to get that young girl that he's always wanted to have, a beautiful young girl. But once he looks for a permanent companion, live-in partner or a life partner, I think people are starting to look a little bit older for a little bit more mature woman.
Absolutely, man.
See that?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Yeah, you're looking at a very expensive place. Both people are working. Both people are grinding it out. It's sort of, I think that's one of the main reasons why it's hard to find compatibility, because you're both living your independent life. You don't have much time to really like blend your lives together. And then coming over to the Philippines with the cost of living being so low, and even like your example of how you made it work as a retired guy, you wanted to meet someone that you didn't have to worry about her working 40, 50 hours a week where you don't have time for each other, right? So you can make that happen in the Philippines. And like you said too, a lot of guys come and they know they can date the early 20s hottie, right? And then you don't quite know what their intentions are. And I think it's safe to say the percentage of the younger Filipinas that are really cute, that are looking for older guys for money, is a lot higher than it is if they're 30, right? They're really just looking to find a good guy to have a compatible, healthy relationship with. So you're right. I think that you see a trend of guys over the course of time, myself included. I mean, it's on my channel. When I first came to the Philippines, I met a girl who was 20, made a video about it and all that. We're guys, and we make some of these dumb decisions, right? Because we're attracted to beauty and all that stuff, right? So it just takes a little bit of time to realize, like, okay, what is it that we're really looking for? How important is the compatibility over the beauty? And I think that, I think it's a trend, or it's just natural progression in dating and meeting people, that you start to look at someone with more life experience. That, see, I like that in between. Like, I like someone that's working, that has more relatability. I think that leads to more compatibility, right? Someone that's graduated, working, and even doesn't have to be like a professional career. I think just showing that they're responsible and, they've lived a little bit of their life.
The girls here who have a career in college, they go to college to get that degree. They have a career. They're going to be, a doctor or whatever they're going to be. And they're young. They're looking for a young guy that has the same goals as they do. Just like when we were in our 20s, our first marriage, both around the same age. The girl here is looking probably for a Filipino guy who's educated, good head on his shoulders. They're going to build a house together. They're going to have kids together. But as us retired guys are coming over, we live in a fantasy before we get there. That few months before we leave, it's like, wow, that girl is hot. Oh my God, I just can't wait to get hold of, because we've been dating old
Yeah.
Walmart women and we're tired of it.
Like, man, I can go
Yeah,
back to my college days where I missed out.
exactly.
I can relive it, or I have another chance at it. It's not just retired guys, it's every guy, right? Once you're 40s, 50s, whatever, it's the same mentality, you know? But you find out quickly how empty a relationship can be if you're not connecting on enough things because of it. It's not to say that it can't work with big age gap. I've met enough now that have really awesome compatible relationships, you know, and there's huge age gap. I interviewed a guy recently, my friend Ron. I think his girlfriend's 21 and he's 66. But when you see them together, it's like, all right, you guys it's working.
What I always notice, the guys come over here and after their first year here, and they're done, they've gone through one or two girlfriends, the younger ones. After a while, they just get married because they're tired of the runaround of the. It's hard for people to imagine you get
Yeah.
tired of chasing younger, beautiful women all the time. But it's nice to have someone that you can call your own, someone you don't have to worry about. The
Yeah.
trust is never an issue.
I think that I don't know if age plays into it or not, but certainly the guys that really come to the Philippines knowing what it is they're looking for, knowing there's going to be temptation and being able to just focus on what it is. And when that person appears, they just pounce on it and they say, this is what it is. This is perfect. This is what I'm looking for. And they put their blinders on and they don't look at all the other cute girls, and then they enjoy their life and they are grateful for what they have. But I think a big percentage are like how you describe it, right? They have to go through this period of figuring it out. It could be a bit of chasing, could be playing into that temptation, and it could be like figuring it out. What is the right fit? Because a lot of guys come to the Philippines and maybe they have it in their mind, oh, I want traditional, I want province, whatever. And then you date someone like that. And maybe it's not for you. Maybe you think you want this really traditional, quiet Filipina living that simple life, but maybe that just doesn't work at all. And there's nothing to talk about. And you don't want someone that's just quiet around the house on her phone or doing the simple things she used to do in the province. And you need someone that's a bit of a mix. And maybe someone from Manila who's in her career at 30, you get along way better with. And it takes dating, it takes time to figure that out. And the age thing too. Like maybe you think you want a girl that with no experience because then she's not going to be jaded from previous relationships, but maybe that won't work.
Let's get to Chad. Chad's coming over here on a mission. What is your mission when you get here? Should we warn some people that you're loaded for bear? You're ready to. What's your mission here?
Man,
What are you looking for on this trip?
well, the first two times that I came, in a nutshell, was a lot of just exploring and getting my channel going and figuring it all out, what I want, thinking I knew, and then realizing I didn't. And then, so what I discovered in my last trip, like I spent a lot of time, like I bought the scooter and I'm just off in the province and I'm going here, there, everywhere, like literally just scatterbrained. I don't know. Every morning I'd wake up and which way do I want to go? And I was just winging it, you know, and it was fun. And it was just, I had a backpack, my scooter, and I was always going somewhere. And I realized after doing that for a while, the value of having a home base, the value of having some routine and structure for a lot of reasons, for like productivity and, getting things done and staying on track with what my goals are, and like staying on track with eating right. And, rather than just bouncing around hotels and eating out and stuff like that, having a healthy routine, going to the gym, just stuff like that. I realize is so important for me. So that's like my main mission is getting a setup and then planning trips. But my trips aren't going to be just sporadic going here, there, and everywhere. I want to have an idea of where I want to go, plan that trip, go there for a few weeks with a strategy, with a purpose. I want to go to this area to check these things out. I want to make this kind of content. whatever. So it's just going to have more structure to my life.
Now, talking about cost and everything, I just want to, you come to the Philippines and you want to travel around. These guys want to travel around. They want to get off the plane and then they're going to go, maybe they'll follow the route you took on your last trip here, you know, down to Ormoc and that area. How expensive is it if you don't have somewhere to live and you travel from these little cities? Is it
Yeah.
relatively cheap? Is it like 50,000 pesos or $1,000 a month that you can live on easily? Or is it much more expensive because you're traveling?
Well, it's always depends on how you travel, right? I mean, your accommodations is obviously going to go up because you're paying nightly or short term, and then you're eating out more often. So that depends too. But I mean, I was staying in a place in Naval that was like 500 pesos a night or something like that. It was like $10 on average a day that I was paying to stay at this hotel. It was right downtown, called Benjamin Hotel. So there's places like that, and then there's other times though you're spending, you know, maybe 30 US a night or something like that. So I think I was averaging probably 2K. Overall, I average about 2K a month, and that kind of includes kind of everything. So you can spend more of that. You could probably spend less as well. It depends how you do it. But if you do something like what we've talked about, you can rent a 1-bedroom apartment for 10K in Dumaguete, and it's not furnished, but or maybe 10 to 15K. You know, now we're talking your budget goes way down, and you can live on 1,000. You can live on, I always say 1,500 is really comfortable if you have more of a setup and you have your, you know, longer term lease. I have a friend in, I just confirmed with him how much he's paying, 6,000 pesos a month for his apartment, all in. And that's in Naval. And yeah, it's in Biliran. It's a beautiful island. So if you go out into the province, like a place like that, that's not full on, you know, expat hangout like Dumaguete, you can get a setup. His budget is 1,200 Canadian a month. That's all he has, which is a lot less. That's like, I don't know, 800 American. So yeah.
But he's living in one spot. He's set up there.
Yeah.
But for traveling spot to spot, you know, you get here and you want to, you know, you're going to travel for 5-6 months. You just want to travel around the islands. I think, like you said, the budget's probably going to be
2K. You can go over that if you want to stay in nicer places. You can do like I said, you can find cheaper places along the way. If you eat if you don't mind the food in the province and you eat just out at one of those local dining areas, I mean, you can eat for $3, you know, a meal kind of thing, or $2 a meal. But then you can go to a restaurant and spend maybe $5 to $8 or something like that. It really depends on how you do it.
And the travel is hard too, isn't it? Getting from one place to the other. You know, once you get to where you want to be, it's fine, but that travel could be difficult. You know, you get caught in a rainstorm, you know, so many different things.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I was going to say not at all. Like, I didn't find the travel hard at all in the Philippines. It's one of the perk is like I travel with my scooter, and I know a lot of guys like this idea of like bouncing around on a scooter. A lot of the ferries you can bring your scooter on. What was I paying? I was probably averaging like 20 to $30 or something like that for a ferry ride to hop from one island to the next with my scooter, something like that. Maybe some a little higher, some a little less. Not too bad. And flights in the Philippines often are 20 to $40 one way. So they're not that bad unless you're flying a little bit further, or if you're doing it really last minute. Places like Palawan, like El Nido, Coron, if you're going to travel a whole bunch in the Philippines and you're going there and then you're going to Siargao, those places are more expensive. So you're going to pay more for the flight there. You're going to pay more for your hotel, stuff like that. But I was in Leyte, go to Mindanao. It's a lot cheaper. I honestly didn't find it hard to travel. Now, you mentioned rain. I didn't travel through like the rainiest time. I left right before that. That would be pretty rough if you're doing a scooter. You want to plan accordingly. I'd say March, April, May, no rain. And for traveling around in your scooter, it's a little hot and sunny, but it's a good time to go and not worry about getting rained in. As everyone knows, and you know, like I spent a lot of time in Duma, and I like it there, man. I do. Obviously, I know you and some people there, and that's a nice thing. But yeah,
We're an
I made
old,
a video
retired
recently.
community.
What's that?
We're old. We're old. We're retired. Too many expats here. Too many YouTubers here. All the negatives.
Dude,
Not really.
I don't feel that at all. You know what I think, Mike? I
What do you
think
think?
there's an opportunity for Dumaguete to be a younger person's kind of home base too. You know, when I say younger, like I'm in my 40s, and there's guys in their 50s there too. Maybe they're not retired or they're digital nomads. There's a lot of younger guys in Manila, and I like that. I figured Manila could be a good spot too. But Dumaguete is such a nice balance of it's got a big enough city where it's got everything you need, malls, and what else do you need in the city, right? It's got restaurants, it's got bars, it's on the water. It's okay. People like it, some don't. But it's got an airport, it's got the ferry, it's got islands that you can go out to. It's got amazing rides on your scooter, nature, waterfalls, jungle, hiking, mountain biking. It's got one of the best reefs in the Philippines right there, 30 minutes outside of Dumaguete for snorkeling, scuba diving, whatever. It's like, for me, it's a pretty darn ideal place. And I know there's reputation, too many expats. I like that there's expats there.
I'm a talker, so I talk a lot to people.
Yeah, that's not
And
a
so are
bad
you.
thing. I love it, man. I think it's great. Like, I'm sure I'll still check out other places in the Philippines.
Have you run into a place where what people would call the perfect paradise, where you sit on a chair, you got your coconut drink with the little umbrella in it, and two girls are fanning you, and rooms are cheap, and blue water, and there's no other foreigners around? Have you found a place similar to that?
It's nothing, man. No, there's no
Nothing.
perfect place. Funny, like watching YouTube videos before I went there, you don't get the full picture. And I remember watching some where I saw the house the guy lived in, and then he edited to the beach, and it seemed like the perfect place. But then when you go there, there's other aspects to it that you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's just a touristy area, and maybe it's expensive, or it doesn't have the mountains. Like Panglao is okay, nice white sandy beaches, but we've talked about this. How many days are you going to go out and just walk the beach? And you want to go for a ride up into the mountains, like you got to go way off of Panglao, way up into it's not right there.
An all-day trip.
Yeah, it's an all-day trip, exactly. And yeah, it's touristy, it's more expensive. See, that's why I like Dumaguete. It doesn't have the white beaches. It's a darker sand because it's the volcanic, but man, it's got beaches. It's got the reef. It's got what I love about Duma too. Is I love the day trips. Like I love you can just ride up and go grab a coffee up at what is it? Balsai or no? What's that one
We went to Chosen Cafe.
Well, Chosen,
way up in the mountain.
Yeah.
Island beside coffee.
Yeah, dude, I love that spot. It's great. Go up there, do a little hike, go up, grab a coffee, some baked goods.
30-minute ride, you're up there.
Yeah. Ilo's a nice city, but then I feel it doesn't have the backyard that Dumaguete does. It's a nice, clean city, but I think it's further if you want to get to some of that kind of stuff.
More of the urban life, but give a little sense of almost like San Antonio with the river walk. You can just walk around the river, but you got to enjoy doing that kind of thing to live there. Now that you're in Canada, what's the biggest thing you miss about being in the Philippines? That you sit there, in your nice little house that you're in there, family taking care of you, making you breakfast, coffee's ready. Is there something you miss in the Philippines that you can't wait to get back to?
Yeah, well, for sure. I just made a video talking about like more of the drawbacks of the Philippines, and I think guys should really be aware of that. Like there's big drawbacks, but what I've really thought about is the things that bothered me the most about the Philippines. Because of the low cost of living, you can set up a life that allows you to overcome those drawbacks. Like you can sort of, put a moat around your setup to where you're insulated into this ideal situation, right? Like I've been outspoken. Like, I am not crazy about overall the food in the Philippines. Now that's like me being out in the province and eating out. Of course, if you go to the market and you get fresh vegetables and fruit and get fresh fish or meat or whatever, and you go home and cook it, you can have whatever you want. So I'm just typical bachelor. Like, I was eating out all the time and often felt I'm not finding what I want. So one part of my mission when I come back is I'm gonna make videos about this too. I am, like, at least while I'm single, unless I'm with someone that loves to cook and is planning on wants to do a bunch of cooking and stuff. But I'm gonna do a lot of hiring. I'm gonna have an assistant.
Good hire.
Totally.
Wow.
I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna see how much it costs. So for me, health is huge. And on both trips, I came back thinking I didn't eat the way I wanted to. I feel like I was eating out too much. I end up eating at Jollibee because I want a hot meal instead of the cold food that's served out everywhere in the province, or even in cities too, depending on where you are. I want to hire someone that goes to the market, gets fresh food, comes back, cooks a few meals, puts them in a container in the fridge where I always have all the good, tasty, healthy food whenever I want it at home, and running errands for me. I want to see what that looks like. I want to see if that's something that could make sense within a certain budget so I can spend my time doing the things that I'd rather do, be focused more on being productive, focus more on doing things that I like to do. And so I'm going to tick that box, hopefully, with the food thing that I was not crazy about. That was one of the biggest things. Yeah, no, I'm excited about the possibilities of the kind of setup that I can get that I could never even imagine here. I could never afford it here. And it's part of the struggle with, like, talking to my brother and stuff about there's not enough to go around to just hire the cleaner to come in, and you're spread so thin and you're having to do so many things. There's less time for pursuing passion. There's less time for, doing things that you'd rather do. In the Philippines, you can afford to do that. You can,
You can
set
afford
up
a lot more.
you can afford to live. They always say live like a king. And that depends how you define that. But I think for me, being able to do the things I'd rather do and have someone do the things I don't want to do, that's living like a king to me. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to cost exactly. I have an idea, but I'm going to look into that, and I'm going to see, what kind of setup I can get where I never did that before. I was just, wandering the Philippines. Now I want to have a plan, a setup. I want to go to other countries. So that's a big part of my plan. It's more on leaving the country on my trips rather than just traveling within the Philippines. So home base in the Philippines, take a trip to Thailand, take a trip to Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, whatever, and then come back. And I want to compare. I want to make content comparing. I want to see what expats are saying about these other countries, meet people, interview them, and just sort of see. So I'm going to do a lot more of that type of traveling on this trip. And then the home base life in the Philippines will be based on what is the ultimate setup that I can get to live the good life on my day to day. Yeah, so that's kind of the mission that I'm on. I'm excited, man.
So I was going to ask you what's going to be happening on your channel. Well, you just told us some international travel, single guy having a place as a home base in
Yeah,
Dumaguete or wherever you choose,
yeah.
and the struggles and the rewards of doing something like that. So this trip's going to be more than 9 months this time, or we
Tough
don't know
to
yet.
say. Tough to say, man. My brother's coming out, so that's a biggie.
Oh, no.
He booked his
Family
flight.
affair.
Yeah,
Family
man.
affair.
I've been hoping that family would come out, on many occasions when I'm doing something amazing and I'm riding my scooter through a beautiful jungle road with a view. And I'm thinking, oh, dude, my brother would love this. Or, going to come out for like 3.5 weeks and going to do a little Philippines tour. And we'll probably head over to maybe Thailand, Vietnam too. It's not a long trip, so we'll see what we can pull off, but it'll be good.
Guys, check out Chad Foster Explores. To me, he's the best blogger in the country when he's over here in the Philippines.
Oh, geez.
He's a friend of the
I
family,
appreciate it.
and he's a friend of mine, and I just love his content. So check him out, guys. And until
Thanks,
next time.
Mike.